Up next on Inside the SCCA, presented by RaceSchool.com, even old guys who've been doing this a long time can use some help. Welcome to episode 237, maybe, of Inside the SCCA. Yep, 237. Doing this for going on 5 years now, and it is Inside the SCCA, presented by RaceSchool.com. And we've got some fun stuff tonight, and it is going to be fun because I've got Matt Treglia. Ooh, wrong button. I hate when I do that, Matt, every once in a while. See, what people may have or learned by this point in time, Matt, and you might not know this, I do all of the stuff here. I press the buttons, I make the graphics, I do all of that work on my own. After 30 years in television, I said, I don't need a crew and a control room and all that fancy stuff. Actually, I wish I had all that stuff, to be perfectly honest with you. But hey, Matt, how you doing tonight?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Doing great. Welcome to the show, and I appreciate having you here. We're going to talk a little bit about...
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Looking forward to this one because we've done a lot of shows, Matt, about helping newbies out, you know, early young folks getting into it or old guys just getting into it. And this is kind of one of the general themes of the show. We've done a bunch of 101 episodes like Flagging 101 and Rally 101, and we did a show with Larry from Race School talking about, you know, your first driver's school and what you can do to prepare for that. Today we're going to do something a little bit different, and I'm really looking forward to it. We're going to talk about what people who've been doing this for a long time might have some benefits by getting together with either another race school or a coach or something like that. So that's what we're going to get to. That's the deep tease for a little bit later. But Matt, we start every show with the same first question. And that is, how did you get mixed up in this crazy sport that we love?
Well, I have to thank my late great dad. He, when I was a kid, he used to take me to the Friday night and Saturday night races. I'm originally from Rhode Island, so we went to Thompson, Connecticut, and Seekonk Speedway, and ever since I can remember, I mean, probably when I was 3 years old, I've been watching cars go around and racing, and always loved it, and didn't really get into it until later on when I started driving. So I started a little bit late, but I've always been into racing and all my life. So. And I love driving. I mean, I just really enjoy it.
What now? The Thompson that you went to as a kid, is that what is now Thompson Speedway where they're racing, or is that a completely different facility?
It's the same facility. They turned it into a road course. And, but it's been there. I think it's been there a very long time. Very, very long time.
Yeah,
I don't even.
Yeah, we'll have to do a show on Thompson because I don't know if it went dark for a while and then it came back, or if they just added a road course, and that's why we know about it now because there's road racing there.
Yeah, no, they've never gone dark. They just added the road course, which they had part of it anyway when they used to use it as the road back to the pit. But you hear about it now because of the road course.
Right.
It didn't go dark.
Cool. I know the Northeast region, New England region, all of those folks are doing a lot of stuff there between Track Night in America and SCCA, regional, divisional races, all that kind of stuff. So it's really great to add another racetrack to the world rather than subtracting racetracks, what it feels like a lot of places are having done. So that's pretty cool. So from that was at the time you were going with Circle Track, right?
Well, I was watching that, and then my dad took me to IndyCar races, and then I think it really hit me when I saw my first F1 race. I mean, I could not believe how fast the cars would go around the track. I mean, they were so much faster than Indy cars, and they were just amazing. I would go see them in Montreal, and and then I just really got into driving, and I went to racing school and started racing, and yeah. So I started late and ended up moving to California, and I started racing when I was 20.
When you were 20, what was your first racing experience after the school? What did you drive?
So my first time on the track ever was in France at Elf Winfield Racing School.
Oh, very cool.
So I went there and I was 20. And then I came back home. I did a go-kart race, and I went back there and I did their driver runoff, and I didn't do so well. But I met someone there, and they invited me out to California, and I moved up to California, and I started racing karts.
Cool, cool. Was that with one of the school tracks out here, or where was that? Was that the Jim Russell School?
No, I met a friend from the Elf Winfield
Got it.
Racing
Got
Academy
it.
in the
Cool.
runoffs, and he lived in Encino, and I moved
Okay.
in with him and his fiance and their family, and I moved all the way from back east,
Yeah.
and I started racing at Jim Hall's track. I bought a go-kart, started racing there, and the club races at the Saga Speedway in Valencia, and that's where I won my first ever race.
Nice.
In a Horseman HPV 100cc two-stroke, like a tag kart.
Yeah.
Um, and then I did some more racing and got into shifter kart racing, and I hooked up with this kart team called KRC, which is now R3 Motorsports. They do a lot of Ferrari Challenge and
Uh-huh.
all over the world, in Europe, Asia, the European Series, and America.
Cool.
So I hooked up with KRC, and I started out as a mechanic, and I worked on shifter karts, and I didn't when I first started my first job in racing. Um, I worked for seat time, so I worked 2 days out at the track, and I got 1 day of driving shifter karts for the day. So I was
Nice.
very, I loved it, and then I started coaching and became an instructor, and um, probably before I had the credentials, but I was pretty good at it. And then our kart team kind of morphed into a race car team, and that's kind of how I got into racing cars and became a paid driver. And
Nice.
um, I still get paid to drive, and I work for a Ferrari Challenge team. I coach, professionally outside of the school, and uh, so I tell everybody I'm like one of those pros that never made the big time. So I'm basically here to help you out.
No, it's interesting you say that because you said that you kind of coached maybe before you had the credentials to do so. Now, obviously, you've been doing it for a long time, and your credentials speak for themselves. But a lot of people, I find, coaching, and I guess this probably works in many different fields. Um, you don't always have to be the best at it to teach people how to do it well, and and
True.
and finding, we talk with Larry a lot about this, finding a coach that speaks your love language, whatever that is. Some people are very visual learners. Some people want you to tell them exactly, and they learn well by watching a video.
Or
Other
the
people,
data. They're going to
or
see
the
the data,
data,
or some
right,
people
right.
don't want to see it.
And the key, I think, to being a really good coach is to figuring out what your student needs, and then being able to deliver how they need the material, right?
Yes, yes. And you have to, you know, um, I did a little work with other schools, and I learned obviously some different things from different schools that I worked with. I worked with Skip Barber, I worked with Derek Daly, and I've been doing Fast Lane on and off since 2005.
Right.
Um, and like they say, if the student isn't learning, then the teacher's not teaching. So
Yeah.
whenever, usually like our students, like they see the progression every session, and that's the key thing. Like you have to figure, it's so hard. You have to figure out, are they not trail braking enough? Are they not braking hard enough in
Mm-hmm.
the straight line? Are they turning while they're braking? Are they all those different things? And your job is to make them correct those mistakes, and that's how they progress. And the students love it. They see the progression with the lap timers that we show them in the video, and
Right.
it's enjoyable. It's a lot of fun. I still like always, obviously, Jones to race. I haven't raced a car since 2022. I DNF. My last race win was at Button Willow in a Radical in an SCCA race. So but I love driving, and I'm at the track 2 to 3 times a week, and the people, we got a lot of good reviews. The students are happy. It's I really enjoy the teaching and working with people, and I can change the program. We have a basic curriculum, but I'm constantly modifying it to every student, and
Right. So
it's just, I feel like we're covering it all.
yeah.
We really are.
Very cool. Very cool. So tell us a little bit about your on-track exploits. You said you've done some Ferrari Challenge stuff. What racing series have you been with over the years?
I raced IKF. I raced SCUSA. I raced karting. I raced USAC with the Formula Russell, Formula
Okay.
Mazda, SCCA, a little bit of FIA when I was over at Elf Winfield Racing School in the academy, and raced over there a little bit. But I just haven't hit the big time
Yeah.
or IndyCar or anything. And I've worked with a lot of people that have raced in those series, and I've tested with them and driven just as fast, whatever, and
Yeah.
it just never, I've had clients that have sponsored me a little bit, but not enough. And it's like, all these things. So now I'm just going to the track middle of the week, and now everybody wants me to go to the track on the weekends. And
Yeah.
so but I still, it's always, you always enjoy it. You always remember all the good times. Like, I've driven a lot of cool stuff, and
Yeah.
had a lot of, and still have great times at the track. Um, like with the Ferrari Challenge stuff, when I work with Scuderia Corsa, I get to test like the new 296 Ferrari and run
Sure.
the 4.8s, and teach people in that series, and it's great. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of fun. And then when I do the SCCA schools at Button Willow, I mean, I have the full support of the track, and um, and the programs have been really, really good, and
Yeah.
I get to modify it how I want.
I always tell people a bad day at the racetrack is better than any day at the office. So
That's
that's
true.
it's the good thing about getting to do what we do, especially when you get to get paid to do it, which is also pretty cool. So that's a lot of fun. Um, where is you went to the Elf Winfield School, which is kind of cool. Is there a different way of teaching in Europe? Because I feel like there is a bias to European trained drivers in the FIA ladder if you're going to try to make it to Formula One, and I've got a number of kids who I have, I know their parents, and they've come up to me and they're like, how do I get my kid to be, a professional race car driver? And the story always asks, can I please see the balance of your checking account? And then from there, when I have not deterred them, I asked, what are the expectations? Does he or she want to race here in the States? Do they want to go IMSA or IndyCar racing? Or do they really truly have an aspiration of going to race in Europe? And if they do, then you got to take them to Europe, because going through the ladder here seemingly doesn't work, right?
Well, the problem is that the racing over there is, that the fields are twice as competitive. They just
Right.
have more competition, more cars, and the racing schools. I've been to Elf Winfield. I've been to Skip Barber. I've been to Jim Russell. Um, I've worked at Skip Barber, and just the Europeans, when they were just, they taught trail braking, whereas some of the schools over here don't teach trail braking. It is very aggressive, and
Right.
um, it's just a different style. I really love the way they taught at Elf Winfield. I like the way they taught at Skip Barber, but it wasn't as good as Elf Winfield. Elf Winfield is probably the best. I
Yeah.
love the way they did their program, and I kind of mimic some of the things in our school too. Uh,
Well, that
you
was what I
know,
was going to ask you. Do you take obviously the best of what you learned from all those different experiences, and is that how you've kind of molded your teaching style?
well, that and our teaching style, like, we don't we share the track. We don't rent the track exclusively because we operate during the week. And that's how we're able to do the private one-on-ones because our costs are low. Where all the other racing schools, they rent the track exclusively. So once you do that, you're in the whole 20 grand. So you need to have 20 people minimum, and then you're gonna have another 20 to make money, right? So you're gonna have 30 to 50 people there, staff and everything, and it's hard to put that together during the week. So you got to get weekend dates. Um, so the way Buttonwell operates, we're allowed to operate the way we do. Now, when we share the track with other people, most of the time we have it to ourselves. If there's other cars out there, yes, we're on the track with them at the same time, but sometimes we alternate, so it's not a big deal, and they limit it to just, most of the time it's just a handful of other cars.
Right.
It's never an issue. Um, and so and that's really what and plus it's a private instruction program, so it's great. I get to just I got free reign. I don't have to modify the way I teach someone because somebody else is there that I have to teach at the same time. Does that?
Sure.
That's what you run into when you're one instructor for 3 to 5 students.
Right, right. That was one of the things when I started to learn about how race school does their thing. It sounded different than everyone else, and there was a lot of, you guys talk with the students before they ever come to the racetrack and kind of get an idea of what they want, and so that before, it's like on a race week, and I always tell people I'm a big advocate of sim racing as a training program, and while it's not one for one, there's so little track time on a race weekend. And the track time you get is extraordinarily expensive. So if you can not give up a session to learn which way the track goes, if you can not give up a session to learn where the brake markers are, that is just money in your pocket and knowledge in your brain, right?
I'm constantly on the sim. I'm like I a friend of mine who I used to crew chief for and coach a little bit. He races Trans Am 2. And he lives lives over the hill. He lives in Woodland Hills. I'm in Simi Valley, so he's like 25 minutes from me. And he's got a really nice simulator. He costs like about $15K. It's a Fanatec.
Right.
And we, we duke it out on there, and we learn a lot. And we also he has Billy Johnson come over too and coach him as well. So
nice.
And Billy's like better than me on the sim. He's a factory Ford driver, and he's got to use their sim. So he's
right.
like, so anyway, we're buds, but I get a lot of that sim time, and it does, it does make a difference. It does, if you can get some sim time. I mean, to me, it's always best to drive the track physically, right?
Right. Sure.
But if you can't, then and you've got a sim like my friend JC has. I mean, that thing is you can dial it in. I mean, it's like having a race car in your living room.
Right. But as I tell people, there's a reason why, all the Formula One guys have a simulator at home, and one of them takes a simulator with him to the racetrack. There's a reason why people do this, is because it's effective. Some of it's because it's fun, but I would like to think at that level, they'd rather probably not be sitting in the sim. They'd rather be enjoying, time with family and friends. Some of them obviously really love it, but if it didn't work, they wouldn't spend. And some of the Formula Ones, the actual factory simulators, they spend multiple millions of dollars on their simulator, and it's all. I always find it interesting how good our consumer simulators are. That even Max Verstappen has a consumer simulator that he spends most of his time on. It's the highest end of consumer simulators, but it's still stuff that any of us could spend the money and get.
Well, it's not as good as my friend's simulator. My friend's simulator you can do everything to it. It's like I said, it's like having a race car in your living room.
Yep.
It's awesome. I mean, I'm not saying Max's doesn't look as it looks a little primitive
Pretty
compared
basic.
to what.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. But I think what my friend has a little bit better than what Max has. But Max is probably the best you can get without being the full unit.
Yeah. We could go forever talking about simulators. So much
Yeah, exactly.
This is the perfect time for me to make a plug, though. We're getting ready to launch Inside Sim Racing podcast. It's going to be on Inside Sim Racing YouTube channel. And middle of August, about 2 weeks from now, maybe 3 weeks from now, we'll have the first episode out. So, and it'll be similar in format to Inside the SCCA, but the focus will be on all things sim racing. So, I look forward to that. And last thing on the Sims is, as an old guy who got to Sims very late in life, I'm struggling with not having that seat of the pants feel of things. So I am not very good on the sim. That's part of my process that I'm going to try to get good on the sim and take the time to make it happen. But it's going to be a long, long process to get good on that. So let's do this. Let me take a quick break here. And I'm going to thank all the partners real quick and do our tech tip. And then when we come back, we're going to get to our topic of the day, which I'm really excited to talk about. So, Matt, just hang tight. Grab yourself a beverage real quick while I do this little bit of business. Stand by.
Okay.
All right, so here we are inside the SCCA, RaceSchool.com, of course, our presenting sponsor. I just want to say real quick that a big thank you to Mark and the gang at RaceSchool.com. They have been our presenting sponsor for a year, and this is our last episode with RaceSchool.com as our presenting sponsor. They've been a great partner, and we're going to miss having them on board. But we want to do one last show with the folks from Race School to kind of go out on a really high note. And even without them being a partner going forward, I so much support the way they do their business and how they teach. And it's unlike anything I've heard of. And we've talked a little bit about it tonight. And so a big thank you to everybody there. They've done a really good job of helping us move this thing forward. And they've also been a big sponsor of Cal Club as well with their live streams. I don't mention that on this show very often, but they were a big support over the last year, and we really, really appreciate that. Ray Esports, the official sim racing league of Inside the SCCA. Stevie Ray does his different programs. He's got a Tuesday program. Also, he does the Weekend Warriors program that I've been participating in the Formula V, and that is a ton of fun. Great folks there. A lot of SCCA racers race with Ray Esports. Solo Performance Specialties, those folks there are at almost all of the Solo National Tour events. Solo Nationals coming up here in a couple of weeks. Dave and his crew there. All the stuff you need to go soloing or autocrossing. They also bring tires to the track and check in with them for all that kind of stuff. And if you don't get a chance to catch them at an event, you can go to their website. Of course, all that information is in the show notes. Let's see. Who else we got? William R. Penterick and Associates. Dave Penterick. He's one of our racers here, and we love working with him as well. If you need, Dave does GT1, Spec MX5, so lots of cool stuff there. If you need your money matters handled, if you're not smart with the dollar bills, with the Benjamins, and you need to find a way to save them, invest them, get yourself ready for retirement, it's always good to get a second opinion on that kind of stuff. Or if you just don't understand it, find someone who does. And Dave Penterick is one of those guys that knows all that stuff and will lead you down a good path there. So those are all of our partners here. And our most recent partner just coming on board is Babyface Fabrication, and they are sponsoring what is our new tech tip segment. I have to be careful. I might make this an X-rated show if I say that too fast. The tech tip section of the show, and every week we're going to come up with something. Might be really big and technical, might be really something simple. And this week is really something simple. And how many, raise your hand, Matt, you can raise your hand on this one, as he's watching in the corner. How many times have you sliced a finger open on a zip tie that wasn't cut off properly in the race car? Yep. See, Matt, you can't. Hold on a second. Put you back on camera, Matt. Raise your hand, Matt.
Flush cuts.
I found out that there's a really cool thing, and you may not know about this because I was like 48 years old when I learned about the flush cut pliers. Most of us use little side cutters, and they will cut a zip tie and make it shorten, but it will leave that sharp little thing that's like a razor blade that would like slice your hand open. Flush cut cutters are, I don't think they were specifically made for zip ties, but they are perfect for zip ties. And they cut it flush, Shocking. That's why they call them flush cuts. And if you do it right, which is really simple to do right, it takes all of that sharp little plastic away, and they're not expensive. I think these were $15 or less on Amazon. I've got one up with my sim rig. I've got one out in the car. I've got one in the toolbox in the garage. And I will never, ever, ever use one of these again. Or if I do, I come up right behind it with the flush cutters. So that is our tech tip this week from Babyface Fabrication. And that is our latest episode of Tech Tips. Back now with Matt Treglia. When did you discover the flush cutters, Matt?
I'd say 15 years ago.
You see, you're lucky.
And I think I learn it from an electrician, because you know, when if you zip tie those wires, you don't flush cut them, it'll fray the other ones.
Oh, that's true too. I hadn't even thought about that part. That's probably the real reason why they're there. It's not really because they don't want. I
believe that is.
Yeah, it's probably not because they don't want us to bleed. Although that's my selfish reason. So, all right, let's get back to the topic of the day. And when you and I chatted before the show, I'm like, what do we talk about this time? Because we wanted to. I always want to give value on these discussions, and this is cool. And I'm learning this through the work I'm doing on the sim right now. And it is so helpful, even if you've been doing this for a long time, because if you get either one, you get bad habits, two, you just have an ego. And sometimes you have bad habits and an ego. Don't ask me how I know, Matt. But if you've been racing for a long time, it's not smart to think that having a coach is a bad idea, right?
No, I mean, you always have to have an open mind, and you got to tell yourself that every time you go out there, you're learning. Even though you know so much, you can still learn so much.
What's the challenge for you when you get someone with a lot of experience who comes to you and says, Matt, I need your help? Or maybe they come to you grudgingly and they don't really think they need your help. You ever get those kind of students?
Mostly, I mean, most of the time, everyone wants help.
Yeah.
I usually don't see people that don't. And even when they don't, they just want to come out and lap, I still talk to them, and they still learn a bunch of stuff. So, and my favorite are the teenagers. Those are the best students. I mean,
Really?
They learn so quick. Yes, they are the best. My best student is a 14-year-old.
That's cool.
He got his racing license. He went up to Laguna Seca. He won his first race in the B main. In the second, he went to the A main. He finished 17th out of 60 cars in Spec Miata.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Does he race with us?
And he's never been to Laguna Seca ever. I taught him at Buttonwillow, and he only had 2 years of go-karting under his belt, and he did amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's so cool.
So the teenagers are the best, and I hate to say it, but the guys that are my age and older are the worst.
are the older racers? What's worse? What's harder to teach? The older racer who's spent a lot of time on the track, or the track day guy who's not a teenager but thinks they've got all this track day experience, and that means they know it all?
Well, the know-it-alls are the worst. But the guys, I'm 51, so the guys that are, my age and older that have been driving a lot, usually don't see them. It's very rare that you see them because they already have their license, and and those are really hard. Once in a while, we do get those people that want advanced training, and it's tough because I have a guy, okay, for example, I have a guy that I trained 2 weeks ago, and in our FRS, and his resume, he's done way more professional racing than I've done, but I'm quicker than him, and he has bad habits. Like, for example, he can't heel and toe all that well, and he pulls down on the steering wheel, and like these things, and he's pretty fast, but he's never going to figure out that last, like, true second and a half, because he's making these basic mistakes that he's hit the stone wall. He's plateaued.
So how does he come to you? Does he realize he's plateaued? Did
Well,
his
he ends up coming to us because they need to use one of our cars and get some training for a race
okay,
coming up or something like that. Or they had a racing license and they need to come back and get
right,
their license again. So and those guys are just, it's really hard to break those habits.
right,
It's just so much easier with the youth. I mean, they're so
sure,
quick. But I enjoy all of it
yeah,
because it's a challenge. I mean, it's challenging, and when you can face that challenge and show the student what to do, and he goes out and finally gets over the hump and does it, that's the best. That's very gratifying, and
yeah.
it's enjoyable.
When you get the opportunity to talk to someone, to work with someone who's been doing it for a long time, what's the number one bad habit that you see for drivers who've got a lot of experience?
They won't break perfectly straight. They'll turn in early. They won't track out all the way.
Is that because we don't teach trail braking well enough here in the States?
I I wouldn't say that. I think I don't think that's the case. I think we're teaching the same things the Europeans are, and
Right.
I think they're just, the problem here is that we just have less volume going into the sport, like because we have NASCAR and other divisions where the Europeans don't have that.
Right.
Like, and so when you go to a Formula car race, like a club F4 race over there, they got 20, 30 cars. You go to club F4 race over here, you got, like, you're lucky if you get 10.
Right. Right.
So and that's just the difference. It's more money, more competition. I don't believe it. We're not training them
Yeah.
hard enough. We're teaching them the same things. And I
I
think maybe there's a little more of I mean, they're probably a little bit tougher on their drivers, like, I mean, Max Verstappen's dad was probably not the nicest guy at times. Uh, and you can tell, you look at him and the guy doesn't smile much,
right.
he just doesn't. He just wants his son to kick butt and win every single thing on the planet.
Right.
And he's not happy unless that's happening. But anyway, yeah,
Uh,
and then that's what I think that's what the attitude too. I mean, let's face it, the America's been soft for the past few years. Now we're starting to get tough again. So maybe that's all going to change, right?
My theory is that in let's say club racing, there's a lot of drivers in the, you know, 50 to 75% of all of what they got range. And then there's a handful of drivers in that top 25%. The top 25% drivers don't have a lot of competition. Either they have the best car or they are a little bit better or more experienced. So they're not really in a dogfight every weekend. Oftentimes not in a dogfight at all. So they get a little complacent, a little lazy, because they don't have to be able to hit their marks perfectly because they don't have someone right on their tail all the time challenging
Right.
them. And
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit where they probably knew how to do it right and have gotten the bad habit over time.
Yeah, or go lazy. I mean, it's just like, if you go into a fight, I mean, how tough are you if the person you're fighting only punches back once or twice? If you got
Right.
someone that's always in your face, you're going to lose the first few, and then maybe you'll learn how to, either you're going to run or you're going to learn how to fight. And same thing with car racing. If you're constantly battling and fighting your way to positions rather than just driving around and leading the race, and the guy in second place, you got him covered, and it's no big deal. Yeah, exactly. It's a little bit easier here in America to climb the ladder. I feel like if money were no object, and,
Right.
and, and you just had to go out and compete, it's definitely tougher in Europe. And if you win in Europe, it's like winning twice over here, I feel. So that's the problem. Like, you can get your way to a certain level, and then you get there, and you're not going to be competitive enough because the other guys are racing against are much tougher.
Right. Right.
And you kind of see that, like, when you see that when the guys get into IndyCar or like Indy Lights or something, like, they're like, oh my god, like, these 3 European kids, or this kid, you can see it.
Right.
So that's just, I don't know if that's ever going to change. I wish it were. I wish every kid would just go from karting into formula cars. But they don't. They go into
Right.
sports cars, and so we have a big sports car following over here, and so I don't know, but we sell more cars here in America than anywhere else on the planet. So,
Yeah.
and we have 3 Formula One races. But my phone should be ringing off the hook if people want to drive, but it's not. So
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. I wish I did.
Well, it's funny, we've got a couple of classes in the club that always have a lot of cars, and and it's usually Spec Miata, Spec Racer Ford, and
Right.
now growing the Spec MX5 class, and B Spec in other parts of the country has got a lot of cars now, and what's interesting with those cars, if you look at the drivers who are graduating out of club racing to go pro racing, they're coming from those classes because
Yes.
there's actually competition. Even for 10th place, there's competition in those, and if you go to a bigger race, a super tour or something, there's competition for 20th place. You're actually dogfighting someone every lap for 20th place.
Yeah.
And the training ground is so good. If you look at Connor Zilic, who is now
Yes.
probably going to be a cup driver next year, he came out of Spec Miata. You look at Morgan Burkhart, who is in the Michelin Pilot Challenge, and he's just jumped up to the GS class this year. He came out of Spec Racer Ford, and
Look at Jensen Altzman.
Yes, absolutely. It's time and time again, and just like you're saying in Europe, the reason that the Europe Formula Ladder is so trusted is because there's so much competition there. And that's why I think the people are trusting people coming out of the Spec Miatas and a Spec MX5, and because they know that there's actually competition these people have actually raced against.
Yeah, and just that's where Jensen came from, and it's kind of funny because his dad actually helped start my career here. His dad, he took care of me when I moved out to California.
Okay, yeah.
So
It's small
but
world,
his
isn't it?
son, I think he did his first lesson with me in a go-kart many, many moons ago, and then now he's a star. I mean, he just won the last race at Road America.
Yeah.
So,
What
but
do you
small world.
What do you say to a veteran driver who's kind of on the fence about either hiring a coach or going to a school? And what do you say to that driver? Two things. One, to push him over the edge to do it, but then to be ready to accept the advice that they're going to be given.
Well, I always recommend coaching at any level. And look, if somebody is some guy who, has raced Le Mans and he wants coaching and I could simply say, hey, I can talk to him and everything. And then I can say, I can help you out, and I think I can still work with him. But if he wants someone who's got a better resume, I can always call someone else in. But I always talk them into coaching. There's so much you can always teach somebody something, and that's why I operate at the new track, because hardly anybody's driven on it, so it's kind of got a little bit of advantage there.
Right.
The old track, everybody knows the old track.
Sure.
But that's I just try and persuade them, but I rarely get those phone calls. It's everybody wants coaching or training or a license or something, and
you said two things interesting there. I just want to mention, you mentioned the new track. For those who might not know, Buttonwillow opened a second track this year in January, and it is the circuit at Buttonwillow. And I'm sorry, we named it wrong. I'm a member of the club. It should be the whatever swamp rat or whatever the dang rat that caused it so long before it could get opened.
The kangaroo rat.
The kangaroo rat. It should be the kangaroo rat circuit. I'm sorry.
No. We cannot give the state the
Anyway, but no, the new circuit's really cool, and it now gives the opportunity for, obviously Button Wheel to have action on two tracks simultaneously. They're not connected, so it can't be one big Nordschleife of Southern California. It's two, basically two something mile tracks, and the new track also, Matt, can't go in both directions. So
No,
unlike
it's I love that. I love how it's one direction and there's not a bunch of configurations, and it's
yeah,
40 feet wide and 50 feet wide on the straightaway. So it's actually FIA grade 2 spec.
nice,
Uh,
nice.
well,
So
the curvings might not be, but the track width is.
sure,
And there's only one real bump on the whole track.
right,
So
right.
it's
Wait,
very smooth.
give it a couple years. There'll be more bumps.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. But the other thing you mentioned, which I think is really admirable, and that is if someone came to you looking for help, and like you said, if they've driven at Le Mans, you're okay enough with your background to say maybe I'm not the right guy for you, but I can find you the right guy.
Yeah, like, well, let's say if somebody, for example, came to me who wanted coaching in an F3 or an F like an F2 car or something. Honestly, from my knowledge, I could handle just about anybody. Like I said, and if I couldn't, I have friends that I've coached with that have, I've got one guy that's raced F2 before. They got way bigger resumes than me. So
Right.
I just tell the client, hey, if you want a guest star instructor, I
Right.
can have somebody here, and it's going to cost you,
Sure.
$3,000. So it's some crazy number for the day,
Right.
whatever. But
Right.
like I said, I think we've only done that like once or twice at a big event, and it's never really an issue.
But
So
it's cool that you'll at least entertain that. A lot of people would
of
just want
course.
the money, and I'm going to be your guy regardless. And then then the student has a bad experience and maybe never goes to get coaching again when they really could use it. So yeah,
Yeah, no, that's actually a rarity. And most people, once I talk to them on the phone, they want to get coached. They want to learn. They just want to, they want to learn how to go faster and be safe about it.
yeah.
And like I said, the teenagers I really, really enjoy working with the teenagers.
Yeah.
They're the future for sure.
So we talked about braking at the wrong time. Let's talk about the number one thing you see veteran drivers make mistakes on. Let's give the top five. What would be the second thing?
Second thing would be second thing would be braking.
Okay.
So a lot of times you'll get guys that have been driving for a very, very long time, especially if they've been driving just at Willow Springs Raceway. They will come to another track and they only use the brakes like 50%. Like once they ride with me, the first thing they tell me is like, I have never pressed the brakes that hard in my entire life. I'm like, every
Yeah.
time you brake in a straight line, you should brake hard enough to where you just, the car is barely like on the edge. Like it's not, you don't upset the balance, but barely. And you should hear like a little chirp in the tires. Like you don't lock them obviously, but
Right.
you want to be on the limit. And they're braking at 50%. And then when they go to turn in, the car never, ever, ever turns in properly.
Right.
It takes forever to get to the apex.
Yeah.
When you turn into a corner, the car should want to just dive into the turn and almost go into a spin, and you need to catch it.
Right. Right.
Now, otherwise you're just understeering in. So
Yeah.
they're just understeering around the track, and they think it's really fast and it's smooth and everything. And it's like, no, that's why you're 5 seconds off the pace.
Right. Right. All right.
Well, I'd say that's right at the top.
Yeah. All right. What's the next thing?
The next thing, hands on the steering wheel,
Okay.
pulling on the steering wheel.
Okay.
And that's the subtlety that people do that from their whole lives. And
yeah.
And then, I make a discovery like I found gold, but not really. And it's just such a simple such a simple thing where, you know, they're just pulling down on the wheel, or their hands are in the wrong position, and
Right.
you know, or they're not smooth on the wheel, or, you know,
Yeah.
but pulling down on the wheel when you're coming to the corner and you're just,
Yeah. How hard is it to untrain that?
yeah, that's very difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult. It takes somebody. Okay, so if it's, you know, someone that's, again, that's 50 years or above, that's my new category, over 50. You know, if you're in the over the hill club like I am, that's the most difficult, and it takes. And the only way that they can break that habit is that you need someone that, with a, like, they really have that open mind. Like, they have to. It's very hard for them to do.
Yeah.
It's so that takes some work. But you show them, you know, when you can show them the data and you show them the video, they make the change if they really want to.
Right.
That's what it boils down to, really. If they really want to make the change to go faster, they'll do it. But the problem is, when you get a little older, the less you want to do that.
Well, and that's something that is perfect for the simulator.
Yes, yes,
That is
yes.
one of the things that you could train on the simulator every single day, and you don't need to spend your money at the racetrack to fix that problem. There's other problems you got to fix at the racetrack, but that's one that actually could be fixed on the simulator.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
The one thing I see, tell me if this tracks with you, because I get to watch a lot of racing from the broadcast booth, is at the club racing level. I see a lot of drivers who, I mean, the curbs could be kryptonite. They won't get anywhere near especially the track out curbs.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
they all can kind of come close to finding the apex, but or the turn in curbs. You know, you could put a Mack truck between the driver's door and the side of the racetrack going into a lot of corners.
Yeah, that is the, you know, that's the biggest thing. I can definitely, I see as well, between the amateurs and the pros, and that's one thing that my students, I always hear when you know, we do lead follows and drive with them, and they just can't believe it. Like, we use so much of the Matt use all this racetrack. I'm like, you have to use every inch of it, and if you're not, you're just giving up a lot of time, and that's really the hardest thing to instill in people, is using every inch of track. You know, when you turn in, if you're turning in a foot away from the edge of the track, or 3 feet away, like you said, you can fit a whole car with, or whatever. I mean, come on. You know, you should be turning in as close as you can to the edge, and that every foot, every little inch makes a big difference. You just, more radius, more speed. And I'm so disciplined with the radius. Like, that's my biggest thing, is the line and the radius. It's one of my, you know, one of my main focuses, aside from everything else. But it's using all that track. And when I race with the students around, like on the final day, right before I hand them a certificate to get their full competition license, you know, they have to prove that they can drive with me on the track, because once they get the certificate, that's what they're going to do, right? So, um, you know, and they have to, you know, we're racing, right? We're passing each other and we're racing, and if the student doesn't use all the track and I'm right behind them, I catch them out of the corner and down and into the next corner every single solitary time.
Yeah,
it's that easy.
yeah.
You know, so when you're like, you know, yeah, when you're a pro and you're driving against an amateur, that's like the easiest thing to beat them at. It's just using more of the track.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. It's
and not breaking enough too. But yeah, most of the time, like, you know, the amateurs, that's why they don't. That's one of the reasons why they can't get to the next level, is because they just don't use enough of the racetrack, and they don't realize. My friend, my buddy, I have a, you know, another buddy runs Trans Am, and that's one of his Achilles heel, is that when he comes off the corner, he just doesn't get to the edge of the road fast enough. When he accelerates, he's not unwinding the wheel quick enough, and he's just binding the car up.
well, and part of that can be there. He's not entering the corner properly, so he's not carrying.
He comes in hard,
Okay.
as hard as you can. But it's his problem is that the last third of the corner, he just doesn't unwind the wheel quick enough to rotate out to the edge of the track. So, and you could see it, like that's like his number one thing. If he gets
Right.
rid of that, he's going to be in the front instead of the mid pack.
Yeah.
That's one of the things, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
So cool. Anything else you want to add here as far as this discussion on veteran drivers who might still could use a little extra help?
um, I think you know, and especially at the new track, it's a good test track. It's got a lot of room to make mistakes, and you know, and Buttonwillow is a great training facility. The new track, the old track. I think the old track is better for the more advanced drivers than professionals. Especially right now, it's pretty bumpy, so it's
Yeah.
very difficult. But the new track's got a lot to offer as well, and you know, I recommend always the training. I mean, if you're, you know, if you're somebody that has been racing for 30 years and there's some things that you just, you know, you're struggling with, and you need some help, come on out. We'll teach you. You know, we'll bring you to the next level. It doesn't really matter what level you know you're at, unless you're, you know, obviously an IndyCar or something like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
even guys in the low level of you know, IMSA, you know, we definitely can help those guys out too. But again, all those guys have, you know, on the race team, they have other coaches, and so they're already taken care of. But we we take care of the people that are going from karting into cars, and guys that, you know, want to come back. Let's say, you know, those guys that have had their license 20 years ago and they want to get it again, and they come back, come to our school, we'll retrain you, get your license, and then you can go back out there and do well.
Last question. We did it just this last episode before this one was about telemetry and data, and how
Yes.
guys like me are don't understand it, are a little scared of it. How much of what you do in your coaching is not behind the wheel of a race car, but behind the screen of a computer?
Um, like the data acquisition, video and data acquisition, we do pretty much after every session.
Right.
So we're using it. I use it quite a bit, because, you know, without it, then that means I'd have to ride in the car the whole time. So,
Yeah.
and when you're doing lead follows, it doesn't work. The data, what we use, okay. Um, I've worked with the Garmin system, the AIM system, Motec, Magneti Marelli. The Garmin system that we use in our Toyotas, that is the most simplest video and data system out there. I recommend that to anybody. You know, it's just very simple.
Right.
Because all you really need is a video and GPS speed. That's really it to do data, to just do basic video and data acquisition.
Right.
You don't need all these graphs and how many feet you need to break into the corner. That's afterwards.
Right.
But for what we're doing, the video is quite a bit, and the data is the number, the GPS number. The number goes up, you're on the gas. The number goes down, you're on the brakes. And I can tell how much you're on the gas or on the brakes by how much the number goes up and down.
Right.
And you know, with our other cars like the Radical, we have the AIM system. So we use the AIM Race Studio 3, and that's the next best thing. Okay, I recommend that for the guy who's going to the next level and wants actual, like, a graph. So you have your video. It'll do the track line on the computer, the GPS map, and which is very helpful. And also the numbers, like what steering angle and how much brake pressure, throttle pressure, all the numbers in the graph.
Yeah.
GPS speed, lateral G, engine RPM, you know, and then you can, you know, you have your everything distances in feet, so you can tell when you're on the gas how many, you know, if you're braking, all this stuff, and how many feet, and then that's a great system. I think for amateur racing, you don't really need any more than that. You know, when you go professional, then you have to have, it's mandatory that you have to have a V-Box system in different organizations, because they want videos of everything and all this and that. So after, like, every session, when you're done driving an IMSA and Trans Am and stuff, a lot of times you're gonna hand in your video.
Right.
So you said you struggle with data?
Well, I haven't touched it at all, so
Really?
I want to get into it and really learn how to do it. And I'm motivated from our conversation with Carrie Anderson, who is young and awesome and smart, and convinced me that even this old guy can learn it. And so I'm all in on getting to learn how to do it. But the way I look at it is, it's kind of like almost a parallel to my ideas with sim racing, where it's cheap. It's cheap usage of your time that's not on the racetrack, and it's because track time's so expensive. So if the other problem I see a lot of club races, that they get out of the car and then they're working on their car right up until they have to get back into the car, and they don't have the time. So you got to have somebody helping you on race weekend, so you can actually get out of the car while the session is fresh in your brain, to look at that stuff, so you can right away utilize it before. Because if you go home and watch it 2 weeks after the race, it doesn't really do as much good for.
No, you need to. I mean, you can, but you really need to look at it right after you drive, because you have all these ideas fresh in your head. You just get off the track, and that's the best time. I recommend, like, I'm sure you can handle the AIM system, but that system is, just under $3K. You can get the Garmin is $1,000 system. It's cheap. It's the cheapest system out there, and get it. And you can put it in your car in 10 minutes, and you go out there, and you don't need a laptop. It has its own little portable magnetic screen. It's very easy to use. It is cool. I mean, I use it every week.
All right, I'm sold.
You don't need it's so simple. It's the Garmin Catalyst. It's very simple. It's easy. Cool. You'll love it. You'll be like, everyone should have one of these.
Exactly. Matt, thank you. This has been a fun conversation.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much, Brian. I hope we covered enough, and I really enjoyed it, actually. And how long have we been on?
We're coming up on an hour. So and that's my self-described attempted cutoff time, because I get bored after an hour when I'm watching other people's shows. So I try not to go past an hour. So we have filled up the show perfectly, and the information has been great, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.
Yeah, thank you. This is my first ever podcast.
Cool. We did a great job. So
thanks.
All right. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the SCCA, presented by RaceSchool.com. I'm Brian Belansky. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, it'd be great if you leave a comment, and give me something in the comments about how you learned. And do you have a mentor and a coach now? I'd love to hear that from you. Put all that stuff in the comments. Of course, like and subscribe. And if the comment isn't good, put it on someone else's page. I'm good with that. Of course, you can find out more information about what we're doing here. We have a new website for a new social media. It's TRN Updates on Twitter. So that's just a new handle. We're trying to get all of our names together, our branding together now. So that's kind of cool. But anyway, check us out. We have a new episode every week. Again, Brian Belansky, Inside the SCCA, presented by RaceSchool.com. Have yourself a great weekend. Stay safe and go play with cars.